What's going on, everyone? It's Barles, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Forecast. Apologies, I'm about nearly 10 minutes late. Just had a couple of things to quickly fix up before we go live. But a lot of changes today, as you've probably seen the news. Obviously, West Coast have got a lot of players out due to being in the health and safety protocols. So their teams will be named at 5 p.m. At the time, so in about 50 minutes. So I'm assuming we'll probably still be live around that point because I've got a fair few questions sent in to me, so I'm sure we'll get into plenty of those. But yeah, plenty of players being named out as well. We've got a couple of, I saw that Dougal Howard for St Kilda's named out, Lockheed Weller's named out as well for Gold Coast. So yeah, just have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully no one in your teams is getting named out. I don't think Dougal Howard wouldn't be owned by anyone. I don't think Weller's not. I think Weller's owned by a few people. I don't think he's too heavily owned. I'm just going to go have a look at his ownership numbers here. So Lockheed Weller is owned by, not quite even 1%. So it doesn't affect people too much, but yeah, just a lot of things like that happening today. So yeah, just make sure you do keep an eye on Twitter, AFL app, whatever. Just make sure that your players are playing. Andrew Downing, I think it was 5:30 Western Daylight Time, which is 8. Oh, really? Okay. Well, if that's the case, yeah. We won't be live for that. Then I don't think because that'll be a fair while away. I'm just seeing if there's any update in terms of when they said that the teams will be released. But yeah, thank you for anyone tuning in live for joining me. If you are enjoying the content, make sure you do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do appreciate that. Okay, yep. Sorry, yeah, Andrew, thank you very much. You were correct, yeah. So 5:30 Western Standard Time, and it's 8:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So yeah, it will be a bit later today. So we won't know, which sucks because I needed information to know if I'm going to lock in trades tonight. So that is a bit annoying, but there you go. I'll just have to deal with that. So let's get into all of the discussion. There's plenty to discuss. Had a good game last night, though. Carlton again getting the job done over the Western Bulldogs this time. So that's now Melbourne, Richmond, and the Bulldogs in 3 successive weeks for Carlton. I'll tell you what, they're looking good for top 8 finish. I know it's only a couple weeks in, but yeah, they're looking very, very good. We'll start off with Paddy Cripps. Insane. He looks so good. He looks a completely different player to what he was at the end of, well, particularly last season and even the season before. He's covering the ground well. He's doing everything that you want one of your best players to do. Like last year when he would get the ball, he'd struggle to cover outside of the stoppage. He would struggle to maybe tuck the ball under his arm and run with it. Whereas this year he's doing that plenty of times. He's getting the ball, tucking it, taking a bounce, getting handball receives and like 1-2s and getting multiple possessions. Like this is the second game now in a row he's had over 30 and kicked multiple goals. Will that continue? Probably not. You're not going to have 30 and a couple of goals every week, but 112, 123 to start the season off. It's exactly what you paid for. And not even better than what you paid for. He's now 708 and I think he'll go close to 750 or if not above 750 next week. So if you were bringing him in as a guy that you wanted to then flick to a top 8 midfielder, then it's great. He's making cash. But he's looking like he could be a top 8 midfielder the way he's playing at the moment. He just looks unstoppable. And I think when you've got Chera and Walsh, like obviously Walsh returned back last night, and you've got Chera back in there, I think he could be just better because he's got less pressure, and you can't go to him and tag him because if you tag Cripper, Walsh is going to get off the chain, Chera's going to get off the chain, Hewitt's going to get a lot of the ball, Matt Kennedy's going to be doing his thing. He's looked great as well, by the way. So you can't necessarily tag Cripps, and he's untaggable in my eyes anyway because him and Walsh pretty much both of them are untaggable because Cripps is just such a bull and a beast that you can't really stop him the way he's looking. And Sam Walsh is just an endurance machine. You try and tag him, he'll just outrun you. So maybe you just have to try and tag a chair or something. I don't know. But yeah, Carlton looking very good. They're looking a lot deeper in the midfield. Their whole team's looking great. But yeah, Cripps, very, very good. And if you own him, very nice work. If you don't own him, I would probably be making him a bit of a priority to bring in because he's 750k now. He's probably going to rise. He's going to rise over 800, close to maybe 850, 900 in the next few weeks. So And if you're looking at keeping him as a season on keep, which I don't know why he wouldn't be at this point, because he just looks so good after 2 weeks, you just ride him out until he starts maybe having some 80s and poorer scores, and then you can think about going off. But until that happens, you don't look at trading him. He'd be one of the last people you upgrade, if you upgrade him at all, because he might be around that top 10 to 12 midfielders, and you just want to keep him. Adam Treloar, 117, looks very, very good. Looks probably as good as he has in the last few years, actually. Covering the ground really well outside of the stoppage, very similar to what I said. Cripps, his running looks to be back. He's kicked a goal in each game that he's played so far this season, running as for a running goal. He looks very, very good. As I said, he's covering the ground quite well. Like at times last year, he wasn't really running too much out of the stoppage, whereas here, like first 2 games seen, sorry, he's just doing all that. He's kicking goals, he's getting touches. It was good to see him get multiple marks and tackles last night, because obviously Whitfield didn't have any tackles. So, and which boosts your score up, so that 110, 120 plus score, and he got the 117. So if you picked him, really, really good. Obviously, people that picked Dunkley is not much of a difference at the moment. So if you picked either, you'd be pretty happy. If you picked both, you'd be pretty happy as well. Mccain, he just keeps getting it done. I still want to see what he does when the whole Carlton midfield's there, when Chera's back into the mix as well. If you picked Matt Kennedy in draft, you would have got him at quite a cheap price, and he's going to be doing the goods. Excuse me, he's going to be doing the goods for you. So very nice pick. I don't think he's owned by too many, because obviously, I know Carlton and Richmond aren't the first game this year, so it doesn't matter. So their numbers aren't going to be boosted by those people that just make teams from that. So 2.1%, and that 2.1% there are sitting pretty, and they're pretty happy because he's making cash and putting good scores in. I still don't know if I'd be jumping on him, though. If he was doing this with Chera and Walsh in the team, I'd be a bit more inclined to say, hey, it looks like I could keep up. But I just worry when Chera's back, is he the guy that maybe gets only 10 CBAs and plays more forward? I don't know. Or maybe does a Chera or a Walsh go to a wing? Or does one of Chera or Walsh go to a half forward and push up like Dunkley does at times for the Dogs? I don't know. Walsh won't be. So it'd be a guy like maybe, I don't even know if it's Chera. I don't know. Their midfield mix is a bit confusing. Just that so many good players. So yeah, Matt Kenny, very, very good. Josh Dunkley, 112, helped by a 53-point last quarter. That does always help. But 112, you're taking that. Very, very good. So if you look at Dunkley with his 112 and then he's not 103 last week, back to 100, which is great. And then Treloar 96 and 117. Dunkley's only outscored him by 2 points. So really, whatever one you pick, that doesn't really matter. Maybe this week, if you pick Treloar, maybe that 5 points could be good for your matchup in your league. If you got both of them, again, you'd be very, very happy. Over 100 average for the first 2 weeks is very nice, and you'd be happy with that. Also had lots of CBAs as well. I still think Lib is working back, so I wouldn't be thinking that Josh Duncan's going to be the second highest CBA attender out of all of them. I would still say Lib is going to be the number one, maybe Mcrae number 2, and maybe you could see maybe Dunkley number 3. So I think a few will be lost, but not as many probably as what some people thought pre-season. Most people probably thought pre-season he'd be like that extra midfielder pushing up from the half-forward flank, whereas he looks to be genuinely one of their main on-ballers in the first 2 weeks. But again, I do want to see what it would be like with everybody back, which I think he'll be fine anyway. I wouldn't be worried, and he looks like he'll be a top couple forward, maybe even top forward. You never know. Let's just see how maybe Taranto Duncan go. Sam Dokley, 106, backed up 95 last week with the 106. If you jumped on in this week after, a few people did, maybe because no defenders really stuck out. Maybe Dokley was the one that stuck out to you and you picked him up. You'd be happy with a 106. Obviously, with defenders, you just don't know what you're going to get week to week. And he looks to be a top 6 defender and probably, as I said, one of the more reliable guys back there, because obviously back-to-back 95 pluses. Yeah, I again, Selvin and few people say that don't necessarily chase upgrades at this point. Probably just bring those value guys in. But if you're looking at a defender, I think Doherty's probably the guy, because Aaron Hall is so expensive. If you can afford Aaron Hall, then I think you can fire away and pick him up, because he's going to get your 120s pretty much every week, or most weeks anyway, it looks like. But I'm not sure if I'd be jumping at 900K. It's just so much money. You can get Petrarca's only a 20, 30K more, and he looks like he's going to be an absolute beast this year. And then you've got like guys that are still a little bit more expensive, but they are very expensive. So Jack Mcrae, if it wasn't for a quiet second quarter, it would have been a 120 plus. He got 103, only scored, I think, 11 points in that second quarter. Would have been a brilliant score. One you would have taken with a score, but as a VC. But yeah, 103, you're not complaining. Get 100 from a guy. He's got back-to-back hundreds. He's as safe as they come, so I wouldn't be too fussed with that 103. I'd be pretty happy with that. Alexander Melville, should we be taking Dunkley's 112 score if we VC'd him? Now, this is a good question because normally I would be saying no, because 112 is like, well, 112 you can get a 120 for a guy. But based on what we saw last round, we didn't have that many 120 plus scores, and I think it just depends what options you have. If you've got a Jack Steele or a Tom Mitchell, I know Tom Mitchell didn't score well last week, but I'd still be backing him in if you had him in your team as a captain. Toot Miller, Clayton Oliver, Chris Matraka. I would even include Lockie Neal this week. I'll talk about him later. He's got a very good record against Essendon. If you've got one of those guys, I think you can probably still take the punt on them. But if you've only got maybe a Gordon Grundy, a Whitfield, a Crisp, like guys like that, I'd be taking the 112 because with all this COVID stuff going on, with people dropping like flies, you never know that. But I think as well, if you've got one of those good options, you haven't got a risk of really having a red dot because you're gonna have at least DeConning out this week. Pretty much everyone's got him, or you're gonna have someone named out this week. So you've got the option. You take the loophole if you want the 112. So I think it's probably just personal preference. I think it was close to 115, 120. I'd be taking that because again, you just banking the points is better. But yeah, 112 is probably a little bit. Personally, I won't be taking it. I've got Mcrae anyway, but I wouldn't be taking it. But I'd be very, very tempted to because 112 is just outside. Like if a player gets a 132, right, and you have him captain, but you had the 112 VC, you're only gaining 20 points if you add them together. So you had the 132 times 2 together, so what, 164, and you add the 112, 376. So that's what you get if you had, let's say Jack still got 134. You have 376, right? If you then had Dunkley captain and you had Steele's when you got 134, you get the 224 with Dunkley captain, and then you get the 134 on top, which is 356. So again, yeah, you're only gaining 22. No, I don't know. However it works out, I don't have a calculator in front of me. I'm hoping I did that maths right. But yeah, you get what I mean. It's not very many points if you had a guy get a 130. So getting a 112, and then if a guy gets injured on like 10, 20, 30 points, you're losing a lot of points. So I've always been a guy that you can be safe with taking that. But so yeah, I'd probably say it's a bit up to you, but I wouldn't be opposed if you said you're taking it. Andrew Downey, VC, locking is risky, but have taken Cripps. Yeah, I'd be definitely taking Cripps if you've got him as your VC. It is risky, but if you've got a safe one, like if for example, I won't have any defender emergencies this week, so for me it's not risky because I'm not relying on someone else's emergency coming in if I have a player out. Tom, depends on your style, really. I'd play safe and lock that in. Yeah, that's what I mean. It literally comes down to your own play style and your personal preference. If you want to lock those points in, great, because you're not losing much if a guy goes 130 anyway. It just depends if you want that extra 20, 30, 40, 50 points, maybe, if a guy goes bang and gets a 150. So, yeah. It's personal preference. If Mcrae, for example, I wouldn't be taking because you can easily get 100 from someone else. And, yeah, so there you go. But speaking of English, back-to-back tons. If you pick starter with him, very, very good pick. Looks to be a very good option in the forward line. Looks like a top 6 forward if Steph Martin's not in there. If Steph Martin's in there, I think Speaking of still going to do quite well. Maybe instead of averaging maybe 100 like he's doing, maybe he goes down to 90, 95. He'll be around the midst of top 6 forwards. And he's a good option because with all the COVID stuff going on, if you have a Gawn or a Grundy a late out and you've got, let's say Corey Durden. I know you only got 22 this week, but in a future week, let's say it's a 50. If you've got emergency as your forward, or Jack Hayes, if you've got him in the ruck as well, but if Jack Hayes isn't there, which I don't know if he will be after the next couple of weeks, I know he's played really well, but Ryder will come back at some point. And can they play Hayes, Ryder, and Marshall? I'm not sure. If Gawn and Grundy are out, you can always switch Speakino with your forward bench if they're a ruck forward and play Tim English in your ruck for a week and then play a forward rookie. So it adds that bit of safety net in your forward line. Plus, I think he'll be around the top 6 forward mark anyway. There are quite a few good forwards, though, so he might be in the top. He'll be in the top 10, maybe not top 6, but he'll be around the mix anyway. And he's looked good back-to-back tons, I said, with the 101. George Stewart, very handball happy with 27 handballs and only 5 kicks. I saw people comment, like, imagine if he gets a couple more marks, more tackles, and those handballs were kicks. That's a 110 plus. He looks really, really good and really good fit for Carlton. You're not going to get hundreds each week, but as a defender, getting 85 plus pretty much guaranteed to you because he's getting a lot of the ball. You'd be pretty happy with that, especially when you only paid just over 500k for him. So very, very good. And we'll continue to make cash. And then Corey Dern, only 22. I know some people did have to field him and some people will have to field him with all these players being named out. I'm hoping I don't, but you never know. Just with trades, I'm really keen on a player that I'll name later on as well with my trades that I want to bring in, and I'd have to be taking Dern's score if Paddy Nash for West Coast is named out, which it looks like that could be a decent chance happening because a lot of players from them are being named out at the moment. So, yeah. So, let's get into the rest of the weekend forecast. So, also, the written version of the weekend forecast is on DT Talk. And, yes, I saw a few people comment on the article. There was a few grammar stuff, like instead of saying, like, Jaden Short was a high scorer, but it said bit. I apologise that I was in a bit of a rush with doing this, but I think you guys would probably get the gist of what I'm trying to say. In future, it will be a lot better grammar-wise. I just thought I'd mention that because there was a few mistakes there. And if I get a chance, I will fix it up. But yeah, there's just plenty going on. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so first player, all the teams as well are listed on here as well. So you want to check teams, they're listed on here and also on the AFL app. So if you want to check them, make sure you do. So Paddy Mccartney, solid first score of 59. A lot of people are going to have to film this week with McInerney and Milera being out, and then other rookies being out as well back there. You might have to field him. I'll be fielding him just straight off the bat. I can't take a loophole or anything like that unless I get rid of Milera and McInerney and bring in an option I'm not necessarily sold on, which I don't really want to be doing at this point in the season. I want to be bringing in guys I'm sold on and I want in my team. So, and there's no one there. So I'm happy to be taking McCartney's score this week. I've heard there's a chance of light rain throughout the game. So maybe that means he won't get that, maybe a 70, 80 plus score. But I'm hoping for a 60, a 50. A 50 plus would be good. But let's see what happens. John can be a difficult team scoring against, but he did take some kick-ins. Lloyd maybe back, maybe means he doesn't take those kick-ins. We'll just have to wait and see. But hopefully he takes some kick-ins and gets a decent score for us tonight. Tyson Stengel, good last week, 100-plus score. Can he follow it up? They won by so much. He had 7 shots on target. I don't think he's not going to do that week to week. I wouldn't be bringing him in to your team. Small forwards are very inconsistent with scores like this. He could drop a 40 tonight and that. He's 330. I think if you've got him, you're not trading him because he's making cash, and you're probably playing him on field this week with all the people that are named out. But I wouldn't be bringing him in. He's just not the numbers you're going to see consistently on a week-to-week basis from your cash guys. When you've got Nic Martin, who's not playing this week, but he'll be a lot better consistent-wise. I've got Nash. He'll be a bit better consistency-wise, especially hopefully he's playing this week. Fingers crossed he's not one of these guys that have got COVID. And I'm hoping he doesn't because he only just came to the club a few weeks ago. He was in Melbourne. He might have already had it. So I'm hoping that he won't get it. Fingers crossed. And maybe like a guy like Brady Hoff might be out. I don't know. Let's just wait and see. We'll find out later on tonight. As I said, if you missed all the stuff, Eagles going to have maybe 12 of that 22 playing last week out. So just keep an eye. 8:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So 8 o'clock Adelaide, 8:30 for pretty much everyone else. And then, and then 5:30 for Western Australia time as well. So just keep an eye on those teams. There might be some late drama with that as well. Hopefully you guys don't have too many West Coast guys. I've only got Nash and Hoff. So I'm just hoping that Nash at least gets named. If Nash gets named, that could change my trades. But let's just see anyway. Mitch Duncan, back from injury. I wouldn't be bringing him in. I'd just be watching him to see what he can do over the next few weeks and see if those calf injuries aren't a big issue. But he should be a top 6 forward. He should be a top 2 or 3 forward, really, based on what he's done in the past. He averaged near 110 or over 110 if you take out that injury-affected 8 that he got last year. So he's going to be amongst the top forwards. Just let's see, and maybe an upgrade target after round 6 or something after he's played a few games. Luke Parker, keeping on his role, played forward, kicked 5 goals last week. He still attended centre bounces, same amount as Heaney, I think. But if he plays that amount of forward in future weeks, could be getting forward status, and you'd think he's going to be right in that mix for that top 6. I'd probably be putting him in, to be honest, but he's going to be right in that mix anyway as the top 6 guys. Isaac Keaney went to 9 of 13 CBAs in the second half last week. Looked really good. He's the guy that if I'm not going to be getting I'm just going to say name. Lipinski's the guy I'm really hot on. He's the guy I want to really bring in this week. And if Nash gets named out, I can't bring him in, which means either Isaac Keaney or John DeGoey come in. And I'm not sure exactly who I'm going out of those two yet. I think DeGoey's about 50K more, but I feel safer with DeGoey because I've seen him do it the second half of the year. I've seen him do it round one already. And he was attending CBAs in the preseason as well. Maybe when Taylor Adams I don't know if he wasn't attending as many CBAs. I don't know if he's fully fit. When he's fully fit, I don't know. Maybe he's not attending as many CBAs. Maybe Lipinski, a couple more games on the belt. Maybe he attends more. And then DeGoey doesn't get as much. But I think they want to play him in that role. So I'd be pretty safe with him. Whereas Heaney, you just don't know with John Longmire if he's going to be playing mid or forward week to week. So I'd be watching probably for one more week before I jump in with him this week. But if you want to bring him in, if you've got him in your team, be very, very happy. And if you want to jump on him, he's a very good option too because he's still very cheap. So, but yeah. So other players to watch in this game as well. Keller Mills, can he improve on last week after his preseason, not preseason, injury at the end of last season and interrupted preseason? Didn't attend as many CBAs last week, but I'd imagine that number's just going to go up. He's going to be the main guy in there. And his scoring will rise as a result. Paddy Dangerfield, can he follow up the big ton? Well, not big ton. He got 108 last week, but look good. He could have got a lot bigger score had Geelong not really put the cue in the rack in the second half. So he looked good. And then Jake Lloyd returns this week as well. So if you've got him in your draft side, be happy that he's back. Not many people are going to have him in Classic. I don't know if I'll be jumping on him. But then again, he's probably the safer guy out of all those defenders because all defenders are looking like they're going to dish up 60s and 70s or even a 50 if you Jack Crisp every now and again. So Collingwood and Adelaide at the MCG on the first game on the Saturday. I'm looking forward to this one. Should be a good game. I just hope for the first bounce, Josh Rioli, Nick Dacos lining up on each other. Make it happen, please. I want to see it happen. Jack Crisp is the first player we're going to talk about, obviously. 51 last week. Very, very underwhelming. Very poor. Let's hope he can bounce back from that last week. 51 is not what you paid for. You paid $850, I think, for him. $854, I think he was, or $851. You want more consistency from him, and he normally is. He's a guy that you can pretty much bank on playing 22 games a season, averaging 95 to 105, and being really good. Didn't get off to a good start. I expect that. I wouldn't be trading him out. I wouldn't be jumping at shadows after one game unless you have nothing to do, unless you've got no carnage, which I doubt you've got no carnage. If you've got no rookies out, nothing, then you can think about trading Crisp out. But before that, I wouldn't be trading him out. I think he's going to bounce back this week against Adelaide. A bit of a better, it's easy. It's another easy matchup, and that's a Crows fan. So, and we do give up points. So hopefully he can bounce back. Is the midfield move going to be a good thing? We just don't know yet. He didn't look great last week in the midfield, but it was a very frantic game and it was end-to-end, which doesn't really suit the way that Crisp scores. So I don't think it's going to be like that everywhere. I know Collingwood are trying to play a bit more of that style, a bit more free-flowing, quick footy up the middle. So maybe Crisp isn't going to get that 110, 105 average that maybe some of us had maybe hoped for. But I'm hoping for a 95 to 100 average at least will be what he does this year. So back him in this week to hopefully do well. Jordan DeGoey, as I mentioned before, 20 CBAs last week out of the 31 for the game. Really, really good. Getting a decent mid-chunk roll. If he can get at least 50-50 split, he's going to be scoring 90 plus because he does get a lot of marks around the ground and push it. When he played forward last week, it wasn't like when he played forward at the start of last year where he was a deep forward and playing in the goal square. He was roaming up the ground, getting your marks, which is obviously good for us fantasy coach because he's getting those plus sixes. So, and he kicked a couple of goals as well. He looked really good. I think they want to play him in that role because he just looks so good playing that role. So I personally would be safer. I would rather DeGoey over Heaney, probably because I haven't been burnt by DeGoey as many times. I got burnt by him once last year, but we pretty much all did if you started with him. I'd be just safe with him because you pretty much know what his role is. I don't really see it changing drastically playing full-time forward because that's just not what they want to do with him. He was just so good as a midfielder the back end last season at the start of this season. I imagine that this role will continue. Maybe a few less CBAs, but not a big deal. So I think he'd be real amongst that top forward mix. And if not, he's not going to go down that much in cash, I don't think. So if you really want to move him onto someone in the top six, then you can at some point. But I think it's not a bad option. I'd almost prefer him over Heaney, I think. So Jordan Dawson started slow last week. scored 52 points. So he only got 23 points the first half as well. So 52 points after half time. That's, I think, more what you're going to see from him as well. So I'd be keen on looking at him over the next couple of weeks as a guy, maybe just over 700k in the next few weeks as a defender you can bring in. Don't know if I'd launch into him yet. He looked good in the second half. So, like, if you're looking at a defender, I personally would rather Dawson over Houston, because Houston's just done me dirty in the past. Like, I know that Dawson's going to go down and be in cash, and you've seen one game, it's only 70, and he did score 52 points in the 23 points in the first half. But Houston's done me too much in the past. I'm just not sure I could personally do it. But if you're going to be smart about it, I guess you'd go Houston over Dawson. But yeah, maybe it's the Crows bias coming into me, but I don't know. I just feel safe with Dawson, I guess. Houston can just give you... He can go missing in quarters. I've seen him... I watched him, I remember specifically against Hawthorn, who he's playing this week, last year, in a quarter, on a wing, just go missing for the whole quarter. I think he got like one kick for the whole quarter, and you can't be having guys over 700k that do that. I know Dawson got 23 in the first half, but it's his first half for a new club. He played midfield and forward a bit and whatever. But then when he went back in defence, he scored well. So, and when he's on a wing as well, he's scoring a lot better. So I think he'll be fine. Patrick Lipinski, the guy I'm really, really hot on. I think he is the pick I want. He's a great pick. He looked amazing. The eye test, brilliant. He was in our team pre-season. He was in everyone's team, I'm sure, at some point. The ankle injury forced him out of a lot of people's teams. 3% of coaches were smart with keeping him. I wish I did. I just couldn't start with him. He had 16 of 31 CBAs. I think that number's going to go up. First game with a new club, coming off a bit of an ankle injury in the last game before the stuff happened. So I don't think they were going to go full bore playing in midfield. I think it'll just increase. They recruit him as a midfielder. He just looks so good. Won the Bulldogs. I think he'll be thinking, why do we get rid of him? That's why I love Adam Treloar, and he's a good fit for the Dogs. But I sort of still think why they got Adam Treloar when they had Lipinski there. I think another team probably could have easily used Treloar a lot more. Crows could have used him a lot more than what other teams could have. But so he could have used him a lot more than what the Bulldogs could have. But that doesn't matter anyway, because he's at the Dogs now and Lipinski's at Collingwood. It's good for both, because I think Lipinski will score well for Collingwood, and I think that Treloar will score well for the Dogs. So, but yeah, Lipinski, very, very good option. Low break even, priced at 638. I will be trying everything I can to bring him in. I'm hoping that this carnage doesn't force me to change, because I've had him in my team all week and I really want him in my team. So let's just see what happens. Mcrae, 66% game time. It's not exactly what you wanted. Still scored 83, so still scored a decent tick. His points per minute have always been very, very good. Matty Nicks did say they'll slowly start ramping his game time up. It was just that obviously he hasn't played footy for a while, and they don't just want to chuck him in 100% game time, essentially. Well, not 100%, but you know what I mean, like 85, 75 plus percent straight off the bat. He'll work up. So if you've got him, I wouldn't be trading him out. Is he going to make as much money as a Tom Green or a Pat Lipinski? No, but he's going to score decent enough and make a little bit of coin here and there. So, and I expect him to, as he gets more game time, he'll get the 100 plus scores that we are normally accustomed to see from Matt Crouch. Other players to watch: Josh Rioli and Nick Dacos. As I said, I hope they line up on each other at the first bounce. Both of them low break evens, will score a lot. Nick Dacos will score a lot better than Rioli. Rioli will score a bit inconsistent week to week, but I think it's Collingwood. I think he'll still score quite well. So I'll be playing both of them. Brody Grundy, 96 last week. Really, besides that second quarter, had a decent game. Only scored 5 points the second quarter. So 91 points in 3 quarters. That's what you want to see from him. 30 plus points pretty much each quarter. So he'll be fine. Don't worry about him. Riley O'Brien, only 79 last week. Tough matchup this week. So just, yeah, if you've got him as your R2, just expect that he can be a bit of a roller coaster. Ben Keys for draft especially. Very good start for him with a 132. When we bring him in Classic, I just don't think he can. Wed Laird's back. Is he going to continue with his high scoring? He did last year, but no Matt Crouch. So let's just see what happens when they both come back. So if he keeps doing it, then maybe comes an option. But yeah, for draft, very good as well. Nathan Kruger at 287. That's a little bit too expensive for me, unless you're in desperate times. A little bit like myself, but I think I've got another couple of options ahead of him. And Luke Pedler, only 210, I think he is. So if you're looking at a forward rookie, maybe he's a guy that could stay in the team for a few weeks, but I'm not sure he will with Lockie Murphy and Shane McAdam right around the corner. They're fit this way. I don't know why they're not in the team, but they're in the best 22 when they're fit. So they'll be back in at some point, I'm sure. So Brisbane Essendon and Brisbane at Marvel Stadium. The Twilight game. So Cam Rayner went to 8 CBAs last week. Probably want a few more from him if you're really looking at him as an option. Only 51 points last week. Not what you really want if you own him as well. Would I trade him out if you've got nothing else to do? I guess the cash generation is not going to be there off the bat. So you could always just get rid of him. And if he scores a couple hundred in a row, you can always bring him back in. But he just hasn't shown he's that player that can score big in the past. He's more of an impact player. A little bit like Zach Bailey, who's the next player I'm going to talk about as well. So Zach Bailey got 98 last week. Can he back it up with another 90-plus score? He's, again, does a lot of impact. He's more of an impact player, but can they both, him and Rayner, score well attending CBAs? I'd want to watch another week or two from both of them before I'd be launching into either. I wouldn't be trading either out if you've got them. I'll be waiting probably a week. Maybe Rayner, if you've got nothing else to do, maybe he's a guy you could look at upgrading. So there you go. So Ryan, what do you think of Jai Caldwell? I'll be getting to him in just a second. I'll be getting him literally I've got one more player, then Jai Caldwell will be next one. So I know you love Jai Caldwell, Ryan. So there you go. Zach Merritt played well with 39 touches for 119 last week, and a team that got really badly beaten. Very good score to start the season off. I thought he'd start off quite well against Geelong. Has a decent track record against them. Is there really a tough matchup for him? I know Brisbane's a tough matchup, but there's not really a tough matchup for Zach. Parrish is probably the guy you're going to tag now. So I think Merritt's going to be good. Probably another decent captain option or VC option if you've got a guy that's not playing after you would have put him as a VC. But I think a lot of people would use their VC on Dokley or Treloar or Mcrae or Cripps if you were smart enough, like Alexander Melville was. Andrew Downey was. We're doing with the Cripps thing as he commented before. Jai Caldwell, price just over 500. Good option. 103 is not a bad option. Stringer coming in is probably a bit of an interesting thing to the mix. If he plays a lot of midfield this week, then that makes him very, very interesting. Just over 500k as a guy you could look at bringing in. He's still value. I think he's still going to get enough midfield time in with Stringer to make money. If I'm ranking, because the four guys that you've got that are cheap this week, you've got Jai Caldwell, Matt Rowe, Tom Green, and Pat Lipinski. If I was ranking those four, I'd be going Matt Rowe as the first, because I think Matt Rowe's just that cheap that you need him in. He's scoring well, which I wasn't sure he'd be able to keep. I'd score 117 first up, because I thought he'd need to mark the ball a few more times to get those 110 plus scores, but he looks really good getting a lot of the ball, getting tackles. He'd be my first pick. My second pick would be Lipinski. I think his role looks great. There's no question whatsoever what his role is going to be. If not, his role is going to get better, because I think he's going to attend more CBAs. Tom Green to be next on the list, because he looked really good with 130 last week. Again, there's so many mouths to feed at the Giants. Is he going to have that many CBAs week to week? Would Toby Green come back in a few weeks as well? Maybe he attends less CBAs. Tim Tarana goes in there. I'd be less on his role than Lipinski, but he's got such low break-even, scored so well last week. You can bring him in, and I think he'll still score quite well. And then Jai Caldwell will be my fourth, just because his role is the most uncertain out of all four. That's how I'd rank them. So I think they're all good options if you want to bring him in. And if someone's got all four, then you're going to be making cash with all four of them. So that's not too bad. And then Lockie Neal, he will be my captain this week. I think he's my best option. I'm not taking Jack Mcrae's 103. Has a great track record against Essendon as well. Has played them 10 games in his career. Averages 118.5 against them in his career. That's a massive, massive average, obviously, as we know. It's his favourite team to score against, I think, by a little distance. I think 110 or 112 is his next best for a team. Very, very solid captain option this week. Essendon give up points. And Lockie Neal looked good last week, 118. Only played 76% game time. I would imagine that's going to be over 80, 85% in the future. But just keep an eye on it's game time he plays, I guess. But 118 from his 76% game time is very, very good. So he was on track for a 130 if he plays a bit more game time. So, and I think he'll do quite well this week. Baby Yoda Guns Lip is on point. I'm a very big fan of Lipinski. I just hope that Nash is named tonight. Sorry, is named tonight. Because if he's not named, I'll either have to take Dern 22 and get Lipinski, or I'll get DeGoey and take Josh Ward, which I just think DeGoey and Ward or Keaney and Ward are just a better option. And then he also said called for sure. Yeah, he's a very, even if he doesn't play as much midfield, but at 502, he's a good option. I would probably just find the extra 130k to get Lipinski, or get Rao instead, or find the extra 130 odd k to get Tom Green, because I think their roles are a bit more sure than Caldwell. But if you can only afford 500k midfield and you've got Rao already, I think Caldwell is still a good option. He's still a good value option. I'm not saying that, but just probably last in those out of those other three guys that I've mentioned with him as well. Other players to watch, Andy Mcgrath, just to see if he's still in his backline role. Dane Zorko, if he's doing half back role, what role he's doing exactly if he gets DPP round 6, and if he recovers from that little calf injury that he had. Jake Stringer, just interested to see what his role is. Could he be in the mix of the top sort of 6-8 forwards if he's getting that mid role like he did last season? Daniel Rich, again, he should bounce back from the 69 he got last week. Had a bit of a knock as well, so just keep an eye on that. Jared Lyons didn't score great last week, but still attended a lot of CBA, so he should still be fine. Maybe not the 170 average, as I've said before, but should be okay. And Harry Sharp as well, price just over 200k in the team this week. Again, job security a bit shaky. Brisbane are a good team, but if you need a guy, he could be a guy that you could get this week. So Port versus Hawthorn. Dan Houston, 150 last week, went bonkers. So many disposals, so many marks. Looks a decent trading tie in defence. I mentioned before, I'm just with Houston. He just burnt me too much in the past. I just really can't trust him. But hey, it's a new year, maybe a new Dan Houston. So if you're hot on him and you want to bring him in, he's going to make you money. Could he be in the top 6 defenders? Of course he could. Look at Tuke Miller, averaged 90 in the back half of 2020, went on to average 120, 122, I think it was. So Jack Steele averaged just over 100 when average 100 over 120. So Dan Houston could go and average 95 plus this year and be a good option. He has been injured in the past, and his role has been different. He goes midfield, goes defense, he goes wing. I don't know what his role is. Hopefully it's on the wing, which he was on the wing last week, which is good. But yeah, just be wary that it could be a roller coaster. So if you bring him in, just be wary of that. Josh Ward, only 62% game time last week. So I would imagine that's going to go up a little bit more than 62%. Bit of an ankle knock, which I don't know. Is that going to be an issue? Hopefully not. But a few people, like maybe myself, with the trades I've got at the moment, will be moving into the bench. But the good thing is, if Hoff is out, which I probably hope he's not, because he's making money. But if he is, I can loophole Josh Ward and Jason Horne-Francis, because I've got the midfield not playing. I can midfield the best score out of the two, and that's it. Or hopefully it's best score, because if someone gets a 60 and I just want the other guy and he gets a 40, then you're not going to get the best score, are you? But more often than not, you hopefully should get the best score. So that'll be what I'm doing. Zach Butters, that midfield role is real. Ken Hinkley, obviously, one of the more trustworthy, is probably the most trustworthy coach for us fantasy coaches, because when he says something, it's going to happen. And he said Zach Butters was going to be playing midfield this year, and 96 first up for Buzz is good. I think he'll be top forward. I don't really see how he's not. Hawthorn this week, good matchup. I can't remember if his 130 last year was against Hawthorn or not. I have a feeling it could have been, because I know he's definitely had a good game against Hawthorn the last couple of years. Maybe it was a COVID year he had a good game against Hawthorn, but he generally plays quite well against Hawthorn his last couple. So he should be good this week. Tom Mitchell, underwhelming 89 this week. I wouldn't be trading him out based off that. He's going to be a top 8 midfielder, more likely a top 4 to 5 midfielder as well. Maybe Petrarca goes in there and pushes someone out. Maybe it's Tom Mitchell. I don't know. But he'll be better for the run with that groin issue. We're back to his 100-point best, and he could just easily get a 150 this week as well. He's got a good record against Port as well. I know he's got a good record against so many teams, averaging 110 plus on multiple teams. But on Port, let me get this average up here. Oh, no Bruce for Henry said no Bruce. There you go. So that's interesting. If you had him on your bench, that's a bit annoying. If you have him as your loophole, it's a lot of money to leave on your bench. I'll be trading him out after that if that's the case. But yeah, thank you, Henry or HNRY. Thank you very much for that. I'll get to those teams as well anyway in a second. We get through the last 2 games on the Saturday. So, yeah, 118 average against 118.7 average against Port in his 7 games. So, I know that you could see like 124.9 against Carlton, 121.3 against Seacoast. Like, there's many averages of over 115 against teams, but has got a good record against Port as well. So, and I don't think Port will be as tough this year on scoring because with Drew Boat Wines, it was quite tough. But I think with Butters, maybe Rosie going in there a bit, maybe they've let up some more points. So, yeah, Tomic will be fine this week. If you've got him, I wouldn't be afraid to putting him captain either, unless you've got a better option. But really, if you paid that much money for Tomic, you don't probably have a better option than that. So, and Josh Sin finally gets his debut. Hopefully, he can get a 60 plus on debut. Many issues in the fence. Coaches will probably look to bring him in. I'm just really nervous about bringing him in because Miles Bergman is in the Magoos this week playing in a trial match. I'd imagine he'll come back in next week. Trent Dumont off. He had a preseason surgery, I think, or injury. So I think Dumont will come in as well. For me, I think Sin will be out of the team. That's why I'm hesitant to bring him in because I'm going to have to bring someone in to play him on field this week with the injuries I've got back there. So I'm not sold on bringing him in. I'd rather bring in Sam Skinner, who will be in there for at least 4 weeks with Aliir being out. And he scored quite well at the back end of last year as well, with a couple of hundreds as well. I don't know. He's not going to get 100. Hopefully he does, but he could get under 50. That's the only thing. But I'm just hoping for a 50, 60, 70 score against Hawthorn. It's an easier matchup. I'll probably bring him in, have to play him on field. Yeah, Alexander Melville, she said Skinner find a field for 1 week. Hopefully, yeah. It is, as Roy said on the podcast last night, the Trades podcast last night. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. It's fraught with danger. It really is. But I'm only playing him for a week because I'm keeping Miller on my bench. So if Miller is not back in the team next week, which I don't know if he will, I'll be able to look at Ben Patton, Heath Chapman, Luke Foley, guys around that price, or even a little bit, or even an Asai Wangney Miller or Josh Sin. If one of them perform well this week, I'll just go Miller to him next week and play them on my field. So no issue with that. But yeah, with Skinner on field this week, it is nervous, but it is for nervous watching. But I think he should hopefully be okay for a 50. So fingers crossed that he is. He's going to be doing that intercept role. I don't know if he's going to be playing necessarily a lockdown key defender. He'll be playing Aliir's role. So, and Aliir, as we've seen, can score quite well in some games. So hopefully he does all right. So yeah, fingers crossed. Ollie Wines should be scored 151 on them on Hawthorn last year. Should be good. If you've got a loop option, very good VC option. If not, just put him captain straight up. He'll be very, very good. So yeah, another good option there. James Sicily, 96 last week. Hopefully he'll be good again against Port. Scored 100 against Port, I think, last time he played, and that was a little bit ago as well after his injury. And has played well in Port. Port, tougher matchup. I'm hoping let's hope for another 85 plus from him. And Connor McDonald as well. He kept his spots. Hopefully be quite good as well. So, so Baby Yoda with Guns and Tom with those questions, I will answer them as well. I will just get through these games though, just quickly for people that want to get through the games, and I'll answer the questions at the end. So, but thank you very much for putting your question. I really do enjoy when people put questions in, and I can answer questions and you get my 2 cents worth if you take them on board or not. But I do like interacting with you guys in the chat. Thank you very much for leaving questions in. If you've got questions, leave them there as well. I've got questions I'll get through as well on the article that people left, and then on Twitter and Instagram people sent me. So I'll get through with them as well. Gold Coast North and Melbourne. Toot Miller, good match against Melbourne. They do give up points to midfielders. Matt Rowe being in the team and playing well. I could be jumping at shadows, but I think that 120 plus average is going to go down to 110, 115. I think Rao's going to take points away. Noah Anderson, another year in the system, improving. I think they'll take points off him. I still think Toot Miller's going to be around the top 8 midfielders. He should be in the top 8 midfielders after what he did last year, but it's just something to watch because he might not be as good as last year. Melbourne give out a lot of points. He did still score well against Geelong in the preseason with Rowell and Anderson there, and they all 3 of them pretty much scored well. So, yeah. No worries, Baby Yoda Guns. Appreciate you in the chat and watching the video as well. Appreciate everyone tuning in live and on the replay as well. Thank you for all the support you guys are given. So Toot Miller, good captain option as well. I think he's Calvin's number 1 option this week, and I probably would I would agree because Toot Miller can go bang and he's safe for 100. So good option with him. Clayton Oliver, Very good record on Gold Coast. 2 of his last 4 games, 150 plus, and averages 117.3 in his 7 games against them, and averages 116.4 at Metricon Stadium. So if you've got him, put him captain. He'll be very, very good this week, or put him vice captain if you've got an option there as well. He'll be great, and he'll be big this week. I think in one of my matchups in the league I'm playing someone that's got him captain, so I'm a bit nervous. He could go 150 plus, and that would put my match up in the dirt to start the season off. Matt Rowe looked really good last week, as I mentioned before. I wasn't sure he's going to score over 110 many times this year because of him not marking much, but if he's going to be getting tackles and over 30 touches, you're going to expect those scores. So looks really good. He looks as good as he ever has. Looks like a beast. Looks bigger, looks stronger, covering the ground. Doesn't look like not scared. Tentative would probably be the word I'd use last year at certain times. With things, probably just because he just been injured a couple of times and hadn't played much footy. But whereas pre-season, without any hiccups, any issues, and he looks great. And then Chris Petrarca, if you've got him, you put him captain straight up. No dramas for that. 142 last week, looked great. Again, looks to be a top four midfielder at the moment. I just wish he would play more than 35% forward, because then we get him as a forward and he'd be the best forward by a long way. But that's not going to happen. Is he's going to play full-time midfield and maybe every now and again a stint forward. But yeah, very good. Should be a top 8 midfielder way at the moment. Joel Smith, we'd sail him out. Good job. I think better job security for him. But yeah, I think that with 220k, I'd probably rather Skinner still, because I think Skinner's still going to have good job security as well. But Joel Smith I'd almost rather over a few of the other guys, because he'd probably hopefully get you 50 and he'll be in there for a while, I think, with Salem being out. Jared Witts looked good last week for 89, and he looked really good as the game went on. So if you've got him, you'd be very happy with him first up. And Noah Anderson as well, just looking at what his role and how his scoring will be. I probably won't be looking to bring him in, but just a guy that he's looking like he could break out this year. So let's just look what happens with that. So Hawthorn and North Melbourne. North Melbourne West Coast, sorry. So the final teams, as I mentioned, aren't out for that yet. So just keep an eye on, in a few hours' time, those final teams will come out. So Aaron Hall, hamstring injury, will play round 1. Playing round 1, but too expensive, come for an injury. Bollocks. Bollocks, as all the English people would say. He 125 served up to us first up. So all of us non-owners had to sit there and watch that. So not enjoyable to watch that. If you owned him, which a few smart coaches that, then again, on the other hand, he's too expensive, and that injury, it's just, you're not starting with him. If it was it like a different injury, like, I don't know, like maybe an ankle, then you could probably start with him. But the hamstring's very difficult to start with. So owned by 14.2%. I think that was a little bit less, but for obviously people that have got McInerney, that have got money, would be jumping on Hall, because he's the one guy that you feel safe with back there, I guess. Another good matchup against a very depleted West Coast side, I would imagine. I was probably going to go West Coast in my tips, but probably after this, you probably have to go North, because they've got a fitter team. So, 125 last week, 120 plus, I think will come again this week, and he'll be really good again. Tyrone Thomas really struggled last week to get into the game. I expect a bounce back this week. I just expect a bounce back. 49 is not what you'd be accustomed to with him. He only attended about 30-odd% CBAs. That should be going up to around 50%, I would imagine. And West Coast, very depleted this week, should hopefully mean good things for him as well. So if you've got nothing to do, you could trade him out, because he's not going to make any money if you were looking at him making money. And I don't know if he's going to be a top 6 forward. But yeah, good matchup this week. So that would be up to you. Tim Kelly, I think he's playing. I don't imagine he's got COVID again. He already had it. He was obviously out last week. And so I'm assuming he won't be out this week. So underpriced on what he can do. Discussed a fair bit in pre-season. I'd want to watch him first to see what he's going to do before I'd be launching into him. But if you own him in draft as well, that's good for him to be back in your team as well. But yeah, I wouldn't be launching into him first up. And Tim Kelly has shown the past, if he does get tagged, which if he's the main guy, he might. He's shown he can dish out a dirty score. Josh Simkin attended every single centre bounce last week for North and played 91% game time for 116. This 105 plus average looks to be on after 1 week. If you've got him and he didn't jump at shadows after his preseason game where he didn't score very well, then kudos to you. You stayed strong. And I know Holmes' heroes. Cole Holmes does say he doesn't really take much notice of scoring in pre-season. It's more on roll. And Josh Simkin was still playing heavy minutes in the midfield. So if you listen to that, you'd be pretty happy because he looks good. You could think of jumping on him. He's a decent enough price, I think. I don't know what Simkin's price is actually. So what is Jai Simkin's price at? So Jai Simkin, 8.17. So it's quite expensive. But if you think he can average close to those top 8 midfielders, he is quite cheap compared to obviously the guys over 900k and look good. So Luke Foley scored 100 last week, priced at 404k. Again, I just worry about when their whole team's fit. And again, he could be one of the guys that's going to be out tonight. We just don't know. So if you're trading him in, I would not be doing that. I'd be steering clear of that just with the risk of him potentially missing. If you're doing 2 trades in your fence and you're going 1 down, 1 up, and you want Foley, I'd be going getting a guy like Skinner or someone that putting emergency. And then if Foley is named, then you can bring him in. But if not, then I'd be looking somewhere else, obviously. But with all the troops back, is he best 22? I'm not sold on that. So I'm not sure if I'd really bring him in. But break even of 11, he's going to make money if he's playing. So just keep an eye. Oh, excuse me. So I'm yawning a bit. I don't know why. I don't feel tired, but I'm yawning. So other players to look at, Jason Horne-Francis. But then again, when you're yawning, you are tired. So Jason Horne-Francis will just continue to make money. I'll be playing him on your field, no dramas. If you've got Ward and him and you've got someone on your bench that you can loop between the two, that's probably not a bad option as well. But against West Coast, good matchup this week. Tristan Sherry as well. Nic plays Nick A, so a little bit more of a tougher matchup, but he looks to have that number. He looks to be the number 1 ruck there with Goldie playing more forward. So if you've got him, not a bad option. I've thought about maybe bringing him in instead of Degoe or Heaney, watching another week of everyone, and then bring in who I want next week. But we'll just see. Luke Davis-Junior, good score of 121 last week. I'd want to see a few more weeks in a row, but look good last week. Paddy Nash, if he is named and not out, which I hope he's in the team, it will just make my trades this week just so much easier. Look good besides 1 quarter last week, where I think he scored -3 in the second quarter. So that 60 points that he got could have easily been close to an 80 last week. So hopefully playing on a wing, played heavy game time. Hopefully he'll be in the team and hopefully he's not out this week. I'm hoping the fact that he doesn't live, I don't think, in Western Australia, and he was from Melbourne, I think that hopefully he's already had it and hopefully he didn't get it too bad, and hopefully that he'll be playing this week. So we'll just have to see. And Brady Hoff as well. You've probably got him on your bench. You're probably not going to play him, but with Carnage, you just don't know what coaches' teams are and what they're going to have to deal with. But he could be another one that's out this week with this whole, a lot of players are playing. So, a lot of players that played last week are going to miss. So just keep an eye on that. So Richmond and GWS at the MCG on Sunday. So the final teams. So you've got Thompson, Dow, Matthew Parker, and Camden McIntosh coming to the side. Jack Rioli out injured. Jake Arts dropped. Dion Prestia injured. And Dustin Martin is out through personal reasons. So if you have Dusty, I'd be trading him. I don't think he's a top 6 forward anyway. So this is almost an excuse to trade him. I love Dusty as a player. I think he's one of the best players that we've ever seen. But I don't think he's a top 6 forward. A guy that doesn't tackle is just not going to put up that. Unless he gets 30 touches a week, he's not going to be a good enough option to be a top 6 forward that you can trust. So I'd be trading him out if I had Dusty. And there's a lot of good options. You've got Heaney, DeGoey. If you didn't get Taranto and you want to pay up, he looked good last week. Zach Butters, if you don't have him, if you don't have Stephen Cornelio, I still think he's not a bad option to bring in. So just, a few options there. GWS, so Jesse Hogan, Nick Haynes come into the side. I just didn't want to put the bottle down and make too much of a noise, so just try and put it down. So that's why I was looking over there. Jesse Hogan, Nick Haynes come into the side. Matt DeBoer out dropped. Lockie Keefe dropped, and Jacob Hopper managed. So it's funny that Dusty's out and normally gets tagged by DeBoer, and DeBoer's also out. So that's funny how that works in the past. So there you go. Okay, just quick look at that. So with Richmond Giants players, Jaden Short should bounce back after last week. Only 68 points. If it wasn't for the kick-ins, it would have been a lot worse. So it was good for that. I know Vlosten again, so that should be good for him. But the highest score last week was Marlon Pickett with 84. So I'd imagine that Jaden Short's going to be better than 68, a better matchup. Actually, no, Giants could be tough matchup. So not a better matchup actually, but yeah, I think he'll be better than 68 this week. We all thought it'd be better without Hawley this year, but Jaden Short is prone to throwing out these scores. So I owned him last year. He did do this every now and again. So just be prepared that he can throw these scores out, and all defenders do as well. So Tim Taranto didn't play as much mid for Tom and Toby Green out. That didn't matter. 128 he scored, filled the stat sheet up right across the board. Kicked 1 goal 3, so that could have been a big 140 plus score last week if you owned him. If you owned him, you'd be very, very happy with that start, and you'd be happy that you paid up for him. But again, I don't see 120 plus coming each of the first 6 weeks with Toby Green out. I think you'll get an 80 odd here and there. But again, he looked good. He looked pushed up the ground, wasn't playing deep forward. Just he'll still be a top 6 forward, probably going to be the top scoring forward. But yeah, he looked very, very good, didn't he? But I don't know if I'd be paying up that much to bring him in. But hey, if you want to bring him in, I'm not going to say no to that, even though he's very expensive. Tom Green, I did mention him before as well. Very impressive last week against Sydney. Breakout looks like to be very much on the cards, but Sony Mesfi and the Giants, I just don't know if that mid-roll is going to be there so much. I'd rather Lipinski over him. I'd rather Rowe over him. I'd probably rather Tom Green over Jai Caldwell. But if you're hot on him, you want to bring him in, low break even, 130 plus last week, you can bring him in, no dramas. He'll make you money and be a good option. Richmond, Lockheed Whitfield. Richmond are one of Lockheed Whitfield's normally one of his favourite teams to score against. But his last 2 games, he's got a 91 and an 80 against them. So it's turned from him being one of the better teams he scores well against to a team that he doesn't score well against. He averages 105 against them in his career. If you take those 2 games away, what is that? So if I just do, how am I trying to work out this average here? So, that's right. Okay, so 185 times 10. I'm just trying to work out what his average is without those. So you take away, you got 80 and a 91, and then divide that by 8. So he averages 110 against Richmond in his career, 8 games besides his last 2. So if you're looking at that, he should be good this week. But if you're looking at his last 2, then you'd be nervous on what you're going to do. And he only got 69 last week. But MCG, wide open spaces, should get plenty of marks. And I think he'll be really good as well. So he'll be fine. If you've got a Mitch Owens, and if he doesn't play, then you could always loophole him into Jack Steele. If you've got Jack Steele, it's very, very tight in terms of a loophole, but you can do it if you've got the right player that's not playing. So, yeah. And then Dusty, obviously not playing. So if you've got him, as I mentioned before, I'd be probably looking to move him on. Other players to watch, if you've got Gibcus on the bench, hopefully if you can score better than 35. He got 27 to 35 points in the second quarter. So hopefully you can do better than that if you've got him on the bench. Hope you don't have to play him this week. Daniel Rioli, hopefully he does better than 56. Again, all Richmond players struggled last week, so maybe he does better. Maybe Gibcus does do better because all Richmond players did struggle. Stephen Canelio got 86 last week. It was a good first outing for him. I think he'll be better than that this week as well. Richmond a better matchup for him, and he'll be fine. He'll be right in the mix for that top 6 forwards as well. Josh Kelly, 96 as well. Again, probably not as much as what you wanted, but again, he'll be better this week. Hugo Rao Smith is in the team. So if you've got him on your bench or you held him last week, then you've got him again this week. So that's good. And then Braden Pruce, obviously, as Henry or HNRY said to before, no Pruce this week. So if you've got him on your bench, then that's a lot of money, and you could probably move him on to fund another move. Or if you can't do it this week, next week, you could always do that as well. So Fremantle, St Kilda, the final game of the round. Then we're getting to the questions. James Age, Joel Hamlin, Sean Darcy in for them. David Mundy and Brendan Cox out due to health and safety protocols. Liam Henry's been dropped, which I thought he'd be staying in the side. But I guess with Aish, Akers, who's the other guy that play on the wing there? Frederick plays on the wing sometimes. Jordan Clark sometimes on the wing as well. Guys like that do play on the wing. So, yeah, I'd imagine with that's probably why. So he is out. And Josh Trace also been dropped as well. So I was slight concerned with Will Brodie. Is he not going to get named on the bench because he was on the extended bench? But I didn't really think he was going to get dropped in his name. So if you did have a worry about that, he's fine. So Jared Lena is in for his debut, and Derek Joyce is in. Mitch Owens is dropped. Dougal Howard, health and safety protocols, is out as well, and Dean Kent has been dropped as well. So I still think that. And then Nasai Wayne Milera has obviously been named as well. Has he been named and been kept on the wing in the team? That'd be interesting to see as well. Oh, yes, he has. That's interesting. So in terms of this game, players I'm looking at, so Jack Hayes played well last week, 111, obviously big score. I'm not sure that can continue each week. Apparently, this is meant to be a little bit more of a wet game. What did I say on the weather forecast for this? So I said around 27 degrees and cloudy. So funny enough, I did look in the afternoon, and it didn't look like it was meant to be necessarily too wet, which that'd be interesting because if you're looking at maybe Nasai Wangani Miller, if it's meant to be wet, then I wouldn't be looking at him because he probably would rely on a few marks to get a good score. Well, I might go wait. Someone's trying to call me. Don't know what that number is, so not answering. Thank you very much. What have we got here? So weather for Optus Stadium on Sunday. So 42% chance of rain on the Sunday. So it looks like, 42% during day. It's more at night, and this game is going to be in the afternoon. So maybe there might be a little bit of rain. So, just probably keep an eye on the weather forecast if you're considering a guy. But, Jack Hayes, if it's wet, not going to score as well. If it's not, he should be fine and should score decent enough. But I just worry that he's not playing much in the ruck. So just keep an eye on that as well. He'll still make a lot of money, though. And if you don't have him in your team, you need to get him in this week. Do you need to, though? He's going to make money, but is Ryder just going to come in next week? I don't know. I would hope to think that Jack Hayes is going to stay in the team long term. I'm just worried if he will. He looked really good last week, especially in that third quarter where he's kicked 2 goals and got 45 points. But, just job security-wise is probably not as safe as probably what a lot of people would have thought on Friday night after he played so well. Jake Gresham, second half, went to the midfield, tended 17 CBAs for the game, looked really good, got 99 points, but scored 77 points in the second half. So if his role is like that this week, hopefully Brett Ratton saw last week that you can't have Crouch and Hanbury didn't play. Crouch, Hanbury, and Steele. It's just too slow. Steele's not slow, but it's a one-pace midfield. You need guys like Jay Gresham and Jack Sinclair running through the midfield because it just adds a different element to your midfield. And he looked really good. So if his role is like that again this week, you could jump on because he'll be still under 560K and you can jump on him and he can make you some money up towards 700. And then maybe a move to someone else isn't going to be much coin at all. So just watch him this week. Nasai Wangani Milera, proper debut this week. I know his junior numbers weren't great, but he scored 36 points from 33% game time against Essendon. Yeah, I know it was against Essendon. It was the last quarter and a bit, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. He's been named on a wing. I know the St Kilda do use their wingman a little bit as well. I think his job security is better than Josh Sin. I think Sin can maybe score better than Wangani Milera. I think Skinner's got better job security and won't score as well, I don't think, as Wangani Milera. I've got Skinner out of the three just because I think Skinner's the safest for the next 4 weeks. I think Wangani Miller's job security is better than Josh Sin's because I think Sin could be dropped next week, regardless how well he plays, because you've got Bergman to come in next week and you've got Dumont on the emergencies. Jackson Mead will be the emergency, Keaney before said in a press conference today. So Dumont might be playing, but I would imagine Dumont will maybe get in the team at some point, and Josh Sin could be the guy that's out. So I probably won't be getting Sin in. It'll be Wangani Milera or Skinner. I have to make the decision tonight, though, because McInerney's playing. I've got to get one of those guys to fund whatever other move I want to do. So, it'll either be Wangani Milera or Skinner, I think, for me. And, but then again, Sin could just go get a 90 and stay in the team, and I'll look like an idiot. Caleb Sarong didn't score great last week, but no five for the next 3 to 6 weeks. I think you hold if you've got him. If you a little bit like I said with Tyrone Thomas, if you've got nothing else to do and you can get a Lipinski or Tom Green or someone, you could look at doing that. That's not a bad move. Those other two guys could score better than if not better than Sarong, and they're going to make money. Whereas Sarong isn't going to make as much money quickly because of the poor score. He's got to get a few big scores to make that price start going in the other direction. And Will Brody, as I said before, with Sarong 3 to 6 weeks out, no Monday as well for Sarong and Brody this week. I think Brody will play at least 70% game time this week with no Monday as well, and should be good this week. 77 last week was a good score. I think as well he should be doing the same, if not better than that this week, and make more money for us. Darcy Tucker, he looked good last week for the first 3 quarters, scoring 61 or 64 or something like that. He only got 8 points or 11 or 12 points in the last quarter. So, yeah, but wingers can do that. So I'd be wanting to see something more from him before I'd look at bringing him in. And Patton, under 400K, is probably a good option to bring in if you're looking at someone for Milera. But I want to see it for another week before jumping, because he did play Collingwood. Andrew Broshaw looked really good last week with a 120 against the Crows. He's the main guy in there. Played over 80% game time, which is exactly what you wanted to see. And yeah, looks to be right in the mix for those top 8 midfielders, and probably going to average over 110 this year. Brad Hill looked good last week. Only got an 82, but under 600K if you're looking at someone that I guess in the rabble that is the defence. Potentially someone. Jack Sinclair, a bit more expensive, but did score 100, went in the midfield a bit last week. So if he plays more midfield, could be someone you could look at. Sean Darcy, but I want to see that for a few more weeks. Sean Darcy's back as well. I wouldn't be bringing him in, obviously. Just he's too injury prone for me. I'd rather Marshall, who also you're watching this game as a solo ruck. Maybe with Ryder come back in, his scoring won't be as good, but while Ryder's out, he'll score well. So if you own him, he should still score well again. But yeah, Darcy, too injury prone. He'd be very nervous with, especially being in a ruck as well. If he was in the forward line as well, maybe different. If you had him, in your team, there's more options to move into, obviously. Whereas in the ruck, you've really got Gawn and Grundy, and then if Marshall's going to be solo ruck, you got him as well. But yeah, rucks you just don't stuff around with. So there you go. So that is the wrap up of those games there. So let's get into some questions, shall we? So I will answer the ones that were in the live chat, because I know that Baby Yoda with Guns and Tom asked these a little bit ago. So I'll answer these first. So Baby Yoda with Guns says, side bottom in my team. If he plays average, I'll trade him for Gunston to give me cash to trade Jordan Dawson to Aaron Hall. Good idea for round 3. I wouldn't be going I wouldn't be getting Gunston in. I just think his scoring will be too inconsistent. And I wouldn't be going Dawson to Hall, because Dawson's still going to be, I think, in around the top 6 to 8 defenders. So you're going to want him probably again at some point in the season. And Aaron Hall, you're going to want. But again, 120, I love Aaron Hall. But again, hamstring thing, wasn't covering the ground as well as he probably has looked in the past, and still got a 120, which is great. But he is a risk at over 900K getting him. I'd be holding Dawson, because he did score in the second half. If you want to move on from side bottom, I'd be bringing in a Dokley, an Isaac Keaney, a Zach Buzz if you don't have him, a Stephen Keaney if you don't have him. If you want to go down him further, you can bring in, if you don't have Jack Hayes, you can bring him as a cash cow. I'd almost rather bring in Jade Gresham over Gunston, to be honest, because I think Gresham's role just looks a lot better than what Gunston was. So yeah, that's probably what I would do anyway. So Tom asked, he said, Bales, your thoughts? I love when people call me Bales Ross. Thank you very much for that. It's just, I love being called that nickname as well. Your thoughts on McInerney to McCartan instead of getting Sicily? Not convinced with Sicily scoring. And I think PMac should score more, should make more cash, but is that overthinking a simple mid-price a fix-up? In a way, I think it is. I think that he'll be good this week. Sicily again. I know Port's a bit of a tougher matchup. I think you could probably get both him and McCartan. I would be getting Sicily on field over McCartan, though, because Sicily's scoring looks to be a lot better and more consistent than McCartan's. Hopefully McCartan's safe for a 50 or 60 score each week, but I'm just not sure exactly what will happen with McCartan scoring in the future. So I'd be looking getting Sicily. And yeah, I'd get McCartan as well if you really can. If you've got McInerney and Milera, for example, I'd get both those two in. I'd go one to McCartan and one up to Sicily, or one down to Sicily. I think you make a little bit of coin from McInerney to Sicily, I think. So Baby Edward Gunn says his eyes be beaming. I forgot what that was about, but trying to think. I can't remember, but there you go. Thank you for putting the comment in anyway. Apologise if I forgot what I was doing that about. So, Mark Reynolds says, love your work, mate. Brought in Elijah Hollands for the Martin loophole. I think you sent me this question on Instagram as well. I'm pretty sure if Mark, if I'm getting you correct as well. Brought in Elijah Hollands for the Martin loophole. Who to trade out of him or Baldwin? Is Holland close to getting a game? Will Baldwin return after a poor performance? Cheers. This is a tough one because Baldwin's played a game, got dropped. Elijah Holland hasn't even played yet and hasn't looked like getting a game yet. I would probably trade Baldwin out because even if he comes back and he's not going to score well, he doesn't look like he's going to score well. He's 4K more, so if you need that 4K as well. Holland's, he's got to get in the team at some point this year. Like, he just signed a contract pre-season to stay at the club. He was a top 10 pick, I think, for them. So I'd imagine he's going to play at some point. And I think he's scoring a lot better than Baldwin when he does come in. So I'd be going Baldwin out because at least with Hollands for the next few weeks, you can use him as a loophole. If you've got a rookie on your bench, you can, or in the midfield, wherever you've got him in the forward line or midfield, you can use as a loophole. And like with Warden, if you've got him in midfield, for example, stuttering there. If you've got him in the midfield, for example, you can always go Hollands on your field and put Ward emergency. If Ward scores well, you can keep Hollands on your field and use it as a loophole captain if you need. Or if Ward doesn't do well, put him back on the bench and play Juan Francis, for example. That's what I would do if I had Holland. So I'd be going Baldwin out in that situation. Got a couple of questions on Instagram. So I'm pretty sure, as I said, that was the same question that that Mark sent me. So I'm pretty sure it's the same Mark. So thank you for sending me that in again as well. Adam Pavliwala says his question was, he said, hey Bales, what do you think about this trade? Titch and McInerney traded out, Neil and Dan Houston traded in. I'm not the biggest fan of trading Titch out, as I mentioned before, because I think Tomic will still be a top 8 mid and you're going to want him again at some point in the season. Lockheed and Dan Houston are still very good underpriced options. Again, I said I've been burnt by too much with Dan Houston, so I'm not big on Houston. I want to see it again a few more weeks in a row before I really consider him. That's just a personal preference, but hey, he's going to make money. 150 last week, so. But yeah, I wouldn't be trading Titch and McInerney to those two. If you go McInerney to Houston's not terrible because McInerney is out. But yeah, if I'd be getting the money elsewhere instead of going Titch to Neil. And he also asked as well. He said, is Dustin Martin playing because if he's in that because he's in the team at the moment, but doesn't say he's out. But yeah, obviously, as I mentioned before as well, he's not in the team. He is out for personal reasons this week, which I think a lot of us probably thought he would be. So yeah, just keep just do something with him and trade him out, I guess. So, and then we've got one more question on Twitter, and then I've got the question on the article, which I'll get through as well. So, Anthony Alul asked, he's like, what's better, Dixon to Jack Hayes and McInerney to Tucker, or Gibcus to Hayes and McInerney to Sick Dog, or 2 rookie fix-ups? Okay, so Dixon to Hayes and McCartney. I don't know if it's McCartney or Tucker. I'm pretty sure it's McInerney because he's injured. And McInerney to Tucker. Gibbs to Hayes and McInerney to Sicily, or 2 rookie fix-ups and give McInerney another week. So if it is McInerney, you got to trade him out, obviously. So I'd be doing the Gibbs to Hayes and McInerney to Sick Dog because I don't think Gibbs is going to make enough money to be a good enough cash cow. And Jack Hayes, you probably need as one of those guys. He's got a low break, very, very low break. He's going to make money. And Sick Dog is a good option in defense. And yeah, so I'd be doing that. And if it is McCartney, wouldn't be really trading McCartney. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Anthony, as well. So we'll go through the question on the article as well. So Alexander Melville also asked a question. He said, which premium defenders would you be keeping an eye on for next week? So probably the main guys. So yeah, if you don't have a Whitfield, him, I'd be still keeping an eye on Crisp. I know that one game was bad last week, but he's gonna be better than that, I would imagine. Aaron Hall, as you would know. Sam Doherty, obviously, as well. If you're keen on him, he's got back-to-back 95-plus scores. Jake Lloyd would be one I keep an eye on this week. Tom Stewart, again, they smashed Essendon. Wasn't much ball in defence last week, so again, he'll be good as well. Maybe Dawson to see what he does in the full game this week. guys like that. And if you're keen on Houston, I guess you can watch Houston. So probably those guys would be the guys to be looking at. Doug asked, he said, anyone taking Dunk's VC score? So as I said before, if you want to be safe, and it depends on your style, and if you would like to be a bit safer, but you could take the 112. I personally wouldn't. I'd want a 115 plus. I know it's only 3 points less, but I feel like Lockie Neal can go 120 plus this week. So I'd be going Lockie Neal, Captain, or you've got Jack Steele. You've got a few good options this week. Clayton Oliver, Chris Petrarca. And he said, I couldn't believe he scored up till 3/4 time, but he came good, and I'm leaning towards taking it. Yeah, and if you're leaning towards taking, if you want to take it, then take it. So Trigger, we're back. Yes, we are back. I don't know if you missed it. We've been back for a couple of weeks. Beaks. We've been back for a couple of weeks with the weekend forecast, the weekend report on Sundays as well. But thank you very much, Trigger, for coming back and tuning in. If you've got any questions, well, make sure you put them in live chat. For anyone watching as well, get to them. Toby, who are other... So I will go a bit longer today because there is just so much to discuss. Toby, who are your other options? I'm taking Chris VC with 123. If I had Dunks VC, I'd probably hold out for Took. Yeah, if you got Chris Cripps VC, I'd be... Oh, okay, yeah, true. Okay, we're back. Okay, James Walker. Yeah, okay, just your other account. So yeah, no, thanks, James, for tuning in. Appreciate your support on pretty much every stream. So thank you very much as one of the regulars I see in the chat. But yeah, Chris VC take. So Squid said, great stuff. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much for that. Jordan Hunter, I traded that Charlie Curnow for Dern, and now I have no willpower to continue the rest of the season. Yeah. Charlie Curnow, Dern probably seemed like a good call. Charlie Curnow just scored well last night. Durden didn't score well last night. If he's on your field, then yeah, hopefully he was on your bench. I really hope he was. Who have we got else here? Just looking at the question. So if you just put comments, and I just want to read out the. So okay, here we go. So Human says my trades are as follows. So thoughts, please. So he's got two options here. So Milera to Answorth. I could have gone Sin, but I feel Answorth has better job security. Thoughts as Sin is cheaper. I'll probably agree Answorth's job security is better. I was hoping Wilmot would get named for Brisbane this week and be an option, but he wasn't named, so he's not an option. Answorth would have better job security than Sin, and I'd almost rather pay the extra, probably 50K if you're looking at him over Sin, maybe. And then Baldwin to Dixon. This allows me to swap Hayes and then move Hayes on the field for Martin. I see there your two trades. And no, I'm holding Nic Martin and DeConning as have Skinner, who I brought in last week for loophole on Martin, and correctly felt he would be named this week. So with above trade, I have play full 8 playing in defence, which is good. That's good. Now this means I'm holding Dusty. Will he play? And want to play? I could change trade 2, move Skinner back to forward and play at F6 and swap Dusty out. Means Hayes still sits at F3. I think you've got to. I think with Dusty, you've got to trade him out. I just think you can move into a better option. I think Hayes and Skinner, maybe there's not a huge difference, hopefully. Based on last week, could be, but I'm hoping Skinner can get a 50 for us and Hayes won't get 100 this week. So hopefully that works out. But I'll be going Dusty out. It just sucks, yeah, Nic Martin. I think with Nic Martin being out, we're just going to have to play some guys that we don't want to this week because Nic Martin will be back next week, hopefully. Cody, current trades are McInerney to Houston and Sarong to Caldwell. I like those. I don't mind those trades. Again, you probably need the cash from Sarong to Caldwell to get. If you don't have Rao, I'd be going Rao, obviously, but most people got Rao. Can't find the cash to get McInerney to Houston and don't see anybody else around his price or lower that I want to play on field. Therefore, I have to go Sarong down to Caldwell to make the Houston move work. Yeah, if with that, I don't mind getting Houston in. I personally, if I want to get someone, I'd almost rather Dawson just because he played well second half and I just feel he could score better on a week-to-week basis. But if a lot of people, that's probably me just being a bit stubborn with Houston. So you probably would just rather Houston. If you don't have McCartney on field, you could consider putting McCartney on field because if you've got Skinner and DeConnie, you can loophole Skinner and McCartney get the better score. But yeah, I do like that. I don't mind those trades of those two. So there you go. And and Toe made a good comment as well. Said, if you didn't have Hewitt, I would have obviously gone him. And he's considering Zach Guthrie as a pod. I'm just not sold on Zach Guthrie being a consistent scorer, but you never know. Let's just see what happens. So Ed said Baldwin to Stengel or McGuinness. Thoughts? I'd be going McGuinness out of those two because he looked good last week. Got a 60-odd, but Stengel just his job security is better, but I think his scoring will be a little bit more up and down, whereas McGuinness, I think, should be safe for a 60 most weeks, I would imagine. But if you want Stengel more, I think that could come down to personal preference. They're probably not too dissimilar, but I just think Stengel's scoring can be a lot more sporadic than McGuinness. So Miyagi-san, I hope I said that correctly, said, hey, Bales, great to have you back this year again. Thank you. Thanks to Conway's, man. Appreciate that. Really like this format and article. Any chance I get your thoughts on these trades? Yep, of course I can. Thank you very much as well for the comments, as I said. First trade is McInerney to Skinner, slotting in at D6 with O'Driscoll as defender emergency, holding DeConning. Yep, I don't mind that. Skinner as on field, obviously, as I mentioned before, is very nerve-wracking for myself. Second trade option is Baldwin or Mead or Hoff to Lipinski, plus 44 to 89K, depending on which one. Yep. And then Lipinski becomes N5, Horn Front or Ward become mid-emergency. That's literally the trade I'm doing as well. I'm literally doing McInerney to Skinner. So you're literally going to be doing probably the same trades I'll be doing. McInerney to Skinner. And then at the moment, I've got Baldwin to Lipinski. And then Ward will become my midfield emergency. And I'll loophole probably the best out of the two if Hoff is out. Two, Sarong to N2K, so you literally get anyone. Team is, and then I won't read out your whole team, but if you've got McCartney on your bench, you could always get Skinner and get the best score out of the two on your field. Or I'd go up to a Houston or a Dawson, or if you want to get a bigger dog like a Stewart or someone, I'd rather that than a Young and Blakely. Because Young and Blakely, unfortunately, are in that price range of they're just in a weird spot. If they were like 400 odd K, you could take a chance, but they're over 500K each. So it's just a bit of a risky one for both them. So Tom says, I'm going McInerney to Skinner, but who for Milera? Do I downgrade to O'Driscoll or Sin and pocket a bunch of cash, or do I upgrade to Houston and get left with 80K? Because it's O'Driscoll or Sin, I don't know about their job security. So I'd probably go and get Houston in that scenario because, again, points is king in fantasy and you get more points with Houston and Skinner on field this week over Skinner and O'Driscoll and having to field both those guys. So I'd be going Houston in that scenario. 80K still not a bad chunk of change to have as well for next week. Death Adders 22 said, I may as well trade in Nic Martin and Sin from the power and trade out Mcrae. Trade out Jack Mcrae and Gawn using DPP method. What's everyone's thoughts? Probably better than starting the year without Sicily and playing Sarong Low. I would not be going Gawn and Jack Mcrae out for two rookies. I don't know if you're sort of saying tongue-in-cheek that you might as well because Martin, so Gawn didn't score. I think Mcrae didn't score great last night. You got one or two, which isn't too bad. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be trading out Mcrae or Gawn if that. Just reading through the comments there just to make sure that the question. So Pure Grunt. So add 7 more Eagles to COVID outs from last week's team. That 12 of last week's 22. Foley, Hoff, Dixon, and I'll put Nation as well. We just don't know if they're going to be named. So let's just see who's named in the West Coast team anyway. So and then the final question on the article here. So Bill, would you play Rioli or Jack Hayes? I'd be playing Rioli there because I don't think both are going to score 100 again this week. I would just trust that Rioli against Collingwood would be a better matchup than Hayes against Freo. Hayes against Freo is a good matchup. Could be a little bit wet there as well. That's a bit of a risk. Collingwood's a good matchup for Rioli. And I just not playing enough ruck time for Hayes. I just don't see him getting enough around the ball and around the ground like he did last week. So I'd be going Rioli there. But Hayes will still be decent. I think he'll still get about a 60, hopefully, or 50 plus. And then, so James Walker / Trigger asked, this will be probably the final question. I'll say we've gone for a long time here. Says, McInerney and Miller out for me this week. Milera and Owens to Skinner and Lipinski. And then Skinner and McCartney on field, hold Milera, or McInerney to Miller and Milera to Skinner and Dawson or Houston. Just don't see any value in defense. Well, funny enough, James, you're literally doing the same exact trades that I'll be doing. At the moment, I've got, I don't have Owens. I'll be going Baldwin to Skinner. Sorry, no, not Baldwin to Skinner. Well, technically it is, yeah. Technically, it would be Baldwin to Skinner and McInerney swapping Skinner back into defence and getting Lipinski and putting Ward on my bench. It just depends. The reason I'm doing that over Dawson and Houston is I'm not 100% sold on those two, whereas I'm sold on Lipinski. That's why I'm doing the first option. But I feel as though Dawson and Houston have probably got more chance of being in the top 6 defenders than Lipinski has got of being in the top 8 to 10 midfielders, because I don't really see Lipinski averaging 115, 110 to be in that mix. He could average 105, I think. I don't see that out of the question for Lipinski at all, because he just looked so good last week. Maybe close to 100 is probably where you're looking at with Lipinski. But yeah, if you want a safer, long-term, why'd that just go dark then? I don't know, the camera just went dark then for some reason. Yeah, but I'd be going. That's why the computer unplugged. I don't know why unplugged from the power. But yeah, so I like the Lipinski option. But if you want to be safer, Dawson Houston could be the option you go for. So there you go. So we've gone for a long time, an hour and a half, and it's been a long one. But again, thank you very much for everyone that tuned in live as well and got their questions in on the live chat. Really enjoy answering questions. Maybe in future, when there's this many questions, maybe I might not be able to answer all of them, because normally I haven't got as many questions and I've been able to answer all of them. But today we've had a lot. So if there's a lot in the future, then great, good. Then it'll be, if you can get your question answered, then great. It's always good when people tune in and put their question. I do appreciate all the support you guys put towards the channel. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like on the video. That'd be very much appreciated as well. So Richard Bellinger, you got right just in time to Hamling instead of Skinner. No, I'd be going Skinner over Hamling, because I think Skinner's job security over the next 5-6 weeks will be a lot better than Hamling's. Hamling's could always go out next week, depending on Freo, because they've got Logan and Pierce there. So I'd be going Skinner over Hamling, save the extra 6K as well with him. So yeah, as I said, if you enjoy the content, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Shout out to Andrew Downing as well for subscribing to the channel before as well. Appreciate the support there. And if you want the link to the article version of this, link is in the description below to DT Talk, and just go there, the weekend forecast. As I said before, a few grammar mistakes there. I didn't get to proofread it. I had to get it out today. Had a few other things I had to do. So a bit of a rush this week, but yeah. So apologies for that one. All my social media links are in the description below. So if you didn't get your question answered, or you have other questions, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, or in the comment section of the DT Talk article, and I'll answer them as well. Check out the DT Talk YouTube channel as well. Get up to date with all the podcasts from this week from the traders, and all the content on the AFL app as well. Make sure you keep up to date with that. So, and keep an eye on the final team, especially with the West Coast. Let's just see what's going to happen with all their layouts and their changes. So thank you, everybody, very much for watching today, and hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys all on Sunday for the weekend report directly after the St Kilda Freo game. And then we'll be back again live next week at 4 p.m. for the weekend forecast. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys then. I'm out. Cheers.